Good evening, everyone. Glad to have you all here on a wonderful Monday for the third episode of the Monday edition of Onward to Victory here at Blaze Radio at ASU Downtown. Once again, I'd like to welcome our hosts,
Ella Wolter-Sánchez
and Noah Reed.
My name is Jodan Talley, and there's a lot to get into for today's edition of the show. But first, I have a question for both of you. I know we all are sports journalism majors and obviously love to talk about and want to cover sports, but if there's any other topic you could choose to cover, or any other kind of journalism, what kind would you want to dabble in and why? Noah or Ella?
Oh, I mean, this is tough putting us on the spot like this, but I'm a really big fan of food. Like, I love baking, I love cooking, I love trying different foods, going to different restaurants. So my mom's always joked that if my career in broadcasting has failed, that I could always be one of those food critics. Kind of like not as like a mean or as cruel as like a Gordon Ramsay, but like, you know, I could totally see myself traveling the world, trying like exotic foods, different restaurants. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know if I see you as a Gordon Ramsay type.
Yeah.
I definitely am into the politics route. Here at Blaze Radio, I also like to do press pass so that I have the opportunity to cover other things besides sports, because even though we all obviously have a love for sports, I think it's good for us also to expand our borders. And personally, I'm very into politics, so a dream of mine would definitely be to cover a politician or just be where the news is.
Yeah, for sure. Me personally, I also do find politics pretty interesting, but I think investigative journalism is pretty cool. Yeah, investigative journalism, anything to really do with like crime or stuff, I find very interesting. So today, first up for our ASU team, we have volleyball. ASU volleyball played in the Webb Burbridge Classic this weekend, improving their season record of 11-1 and swept opponents in all 9 sets played. Yeah, they were just. I got a privilege to be there. I was there at the game on Friday night, so the second set. And it was just an absolute blowout. Like, ASU Sun Devil Volleyball just performed so well. They outscored their opponents in all the sets, 225 to 134, which I did the math because I was very curious. But yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it was a great tournament. They played Prairie View A&M, and it was the first matchup between the two in program history, Memphis and Montana State, and obviously they were 3-0. Thursday was the A&M matchup. Memphis was on Friday and Montana State on Saturday. And the tournament that they played in this past week is called the Webb Burbridge Classic, which is actually named after 2 very important ASU athletes in the volleyball world. Tammy Webb, who played for ASU from 1983 to 1986, and she was ASU's Pac-10 Player of the Decade for the 1980s, which is huge accomplishment.
Huge.
I mean, and she was a member of all 3 Sun Devil teams that played in the NCAA tournament when they were there. And then the other person it's named after is Amanda Burbridge, who went to Chaparral High School, which is actually in my school district and here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And she played from 1997 to 2000. She was an ASU scholar, and she holds the top 2 records for kills in a match. And she was the first Pac-12 all 3 years in a row. And so now she continues her coaching career, but a great tournament and great name representation.
Yeah, absolutely amazing turnout at the Desert Financial Arena. Got this little nugget for you guys. It was the 5th largest crowd in program history when they took on Memphis. That's incredible. Again, I know I've hammered this a couple of times on our shows, but the culture at ASU this past season has been absolutely electric, and I am loving to see all of the people who have gone out and supported their teams. I am absolutely going to be checking out volleyball, basketball, football's back in town for another home game here this weekend. It is going to be a loaded week. We're just going to keep on rolling into things. I mean, what are your takeaways on, the volleyball team, like, as a whole?
Yeah, so obviously they have the killer stats to back it up, the season record to back it up, the athletes to back it up. Like libero Mary Schroll was named the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week on Tuesday, and it was the first Big 12 award for the program. They are number 1 in hitting percentage in the nation with middle blocker Claire Jeter. It's just there are so many stellar athletes to look forward to. And like I'll probably touch on a little bit later with this new conference alignment. It's really almost Sun Devil Athletics are almost in a rebuild. They have had past, obviously, specifically like football and basketball, not very successful in the past few seasons at ASU, but they are having athletics all across the board are having stellar starts this season, and it's definitely something that we're going to want to keep our watch out for. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And in their opponents, or compared to their opponents rather, ASU is obviously a killer with an 11-1 record versus A&M having 2-8, Memphis having 5-4, and Montana having 1-7 going into the tournament. Obviously now their records have shifted, but it just goes to show what a powerhouse ASU volleyball is, and they have been for quite some time, this team specifically.
For sure.
But it's a great thing and definitely a team that all ASU students should head out to check out.
Yes, for sure. Next up, we have our ASU Athlete of the Week.
Our ASU Athlete of the Week is on the men's golf team. He's quite the name here in ASU, and especially in men's golf, not only here at ASU, but around the nation, as our team is recognized around the nation. Josele Ballestar, and he won the last invitational that ASU was at in Illinois at the Olympia Fields, and he matched the tournament record for having 10 under 200, and that record was set by Alabama's Davis Riley in 2017. And the winner of this tournament was Georgia Tech, but ASU was second and was beat by 1 stroke, and third was Oklahoma State. So obviously here we have this great men's golf player, Josele, and he last year was the 2024 U.S. Amateur Champion, and he was the first Spaniard to win, and he was the 2023 Euro Amateur Champion. So we wanted to highlight him this week because obviously his performance in the Invitational this past week with ASU, but obviously great player all around, and like we were talking about last week, a great foreign player that we have here at ASU.
Yeah, you mentioned, the World Amateur Golf ranking comes in at number 7 in the entire globe. That is an impressive stat. And one thing that I found neat, though, is, he's a senior from Spain, and he actually is really, really close with another senior Sun Devil, Preston Summerhays. Touched on Summerhays' sibling a few weeks ago in the golf preview. But I stumbled upon an article in the Cronkite News that kind of talked about the connection between them. They're actually roommates, Summerhays and Ballester are, and he spoke about what it's like to have kind of that dynamic back and forth, like, oh man, I got a rivalry, but we're both on the same team, but we're both 2 of the top golfers in the world. And Ballester said this, he said, quote, "It's kind of funny because I love Preston so much, but I want to beat him so bad every day. We always get those kinds of healthy but funny conflicts on the course. It's great because it's healthy competitiveness, and that's what you need."
Yeah, for sure. Just showcasing the high athleticism here at ASU and everything. Like, once again, our trend is that our such diverse spread of athletics we have here, and how we at ASU there's top competitors in literally pretty much every single one.
Definitely. And in this tournament as well, although the Sun Devils placed second and Josele was number 1 individually, other players placed as well, with Wernicke placing 11th, Williams placing 17th, and others placing down in the top 50. But it just goes to show, obviously, Sun Devil Golf, they're ranked number 2 by the Golf Week Coaches Poll as of September 20th. Another great powerhouse alongside volleyball that we have here at ASU, and with athletes from around the world, like Josele.
Yeah, so next up we have kind of a bit to talk about. We have, for our ASU games of the week, this week we kind of have 2, almost 3, was women's soccer, or it's just Sun Devil soccer, and our football. So the women's soccer faced their first Big 12 opponent last week and came up with a win against Houston, and 2-0 with their first conference win in the Big 12 ever. So, how are we feeling about that, especially after their loss to another conference opponent after a few weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the soccer team as a whole, they were a team that came in 5th on the preseason coaches poll. And you look at some of the opponents that they've faced already and will face, you're got an up and down battle. You're going to be having teams like BYU, who is not only one of the best soccer teams in the conference, but they are one of the top teams in the nation. But ASU has continued to put together a very solid season. And I've had the privilege of getting to, have, the opportunity to kind of look at it with an outside lens as, part of some club coverage. And it's given me the ability to really dissect, okay, who are the opponents they're playing? And I thought they did a really good job this weekend. Obviously, we had our first conference win. We also had a tie in a very close 1-1 shootout. Heard that game was absolutely electric for anyone who missed it. But again, I feel like they've done a really solid job of just putting games together. And again, they've got some young rosters. The freshman phenom, Kira Blundell. There's just a lot of talent that is good to develop. But I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's another one of those, like we were talking about earlier, some sort of one of those developing teams, and they definitely have that young talent. Blundell scored the 2 goals in the last game that they won against Houston, and I think it's just great to see talent like that across the board, because I feel like a lot of these teams we see are such, not even senior heavy, but graduate heavy, and now we have straight out of high school talent, like we're going to kind of talk about with our next team, but straight out of high school talent and just young new faces. And I think it kind of shows the overall shift in not just ASU soccer, but ASU sports as a whole.
Yeah, and not only did they play their first Big 12 game, they played a second Big 12 game against UCF that they tied, bringing their conference record to 1-1-1, and an overall season record of 6-1-2. Like Ella was saying, Kira Blundell, the freshman standout, once again, after we highlighted her last week, scored the 2 goals and responsible for 8 out of the 16 shot attempts and 4 out of the 8 shots on goal. This is her second multi-game of the season, and after she became the 4th freshman in program history to score a hat trick in her game on September 1st versus Penn. Another tidbit for you, she came into the game versus Houston ranked 6th in the Big 12 for goals per game, even with having no recorded goals in the last 2 games. So this just speaks with how dominant she is and will continue to be for this program and in the Big 12 as a whole. Anything you have to add for that?
Well, I actually wanted to give an honorable mention to goalie Pauline Nels, because she got a 5th shutout of the season, stopped 4 shots on goal. But the thing that really stuck out to me when previewing that game was with UCF, they had Chloe Netzel, who is not only one of the top forwards in her conference, she is the nation's leading scorer at the moment. And that game saw only 1 goal. And I thought the defense put up a really solid performance. So again, just shout out to Pauline Nels, the defenders who, kept Chloe Netzel out of the goal.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it goes to show, the one game that Sun Devil Soccer has lost this one year was only a 1-0 loss. So they're coming close in all of their games. It's not like they're
getting blown out all
exactly.
the time. Yeah.
But they're coming for their first game back home after a 3-game road trip on the 26th at 7 p.m. at the Sun Devil Soccer Stadium. So definitely something to look forward to coming up in the next few days.
Yeah. A little bit different for this week. We have a little bit of 2 because our Sun Devil ASU football faced their first Big 12 opponent. And their first Big 12 loss, as well as their first loss of the season, leaving them at a record of 3-1 and a conference record of 0-1. They faced their opponent in the new Big 12 conference in the form of the Red Raiders at Texas Tech. And unfortunately, the Sun Devils fell to their opponents 22-30. Watching that game after such a hot start to the season, after such a low season last season, it was definitely a little bit frustrating seeing them, not watching them, but there were some crucial plays that led to some of these turnovers that led to this Sun Devils loss. Once again, some crucial plays on the first drive. Sam Levitt throws an interception on 3rd and 21 that leads Texas Tech straight to a touchdown. And on the second drive, offense is held to a field goal. With the past games, we know we've started off so hot, like the first home game opener, where in the first, 5 minutes of the game, we have a defensive pick six and just blew out Wyoming. So just to highlight some statistics, Sam Levitt had a 22 for a 38 completion rating for 282 yards, which is this year a season high, with 1 interception and no touchdowns. And once again, Cam Scadaboo held to 60 yards for 18 attempts on rushing, but with 2 rushing touchdowns and 6 receptions for 117 yards. So, I've talked about how, I was feeling as I was watching it. How did any of you guys get to catch the game?
I personally did not get to catch the game because I was up in Prescott this weekend, but it was definitely, as I've seen in the reels afterwards, it was definitely a different team that we saw this past matchup. I mean, like you said, we didn't start off strong like we normally do, and it kind of just didn't lull like it normally does, but I don't think this is a change in the season for Sun Devils. I mean, obviously it's kind of next to impossible to have an undefeated season in college football.
For sure.
And I don't think that this is the end to our wins. I mean, we only had 3 wins last year, and we've already gained those 3 wins this year. So I definitely think the season is still going to be on a higher note, but this game definitely wasn't the Sun Devils football we've been seeing so far this season.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there, Ella. Now, I did watch the game. I watched it start to finish, and I kind of had a more optimistic approach than most people who I was with watching the game, because I saw potential.
Oh,
and I
for sure. Me
continue
too.
to see potential within this team. And when listening to the post-conference the post-game conference with head coach Kenny Dillingham, he kind of put the blame on himself. And I kind of was like, whoa, slow down, coach, because you can't put all the blame on you because your team still put up a very strong performance. Yes, does the score reflect how they played? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand that Levitt threw an interception, but he had the season high in yards.
Yeah.
He took a little more risks in this game, and sometimes you have to run that risk versus reward, and it's not always going to pay out. And we had our first Big 12 opponent. Sometimes, like you said, it's going to have those losses, but I like the fire that this team is showing. They did not give up. There was not a point in that game where they did not try to put down the hammer. And yes, they had some little mistakes. You can shore them up. And all I can hope is that they just keep trying to improve, taking these opportunities and not getting defeated. Because again, we're off to a very, very, very solid start. And that's all you can ask for out of Sun Devil football.
Yeah, for real. And I'm seeing this as a, how like players have like a welcome to the NFL, welcome to the whatever league you're in. This is a welcome to the big conference, Big 12. It's our first game in a new conference with different opponents that Sun Devil football has probably never played before. It's just going to take adapting to these new defensive and play styles.
Exactly. It can be seen as an overall learning experience.
For
it
sure.
wasn't necessarily like the worst blowout. I mean, we didn't necessarily look like Wyoming on week 1. And so I think it's definitely a great learning experience for ASU football, and it'll be great to see what they'll do in these coming weeks.
For sure. Our next topic is our highlighted Arizona High School Prospect of the Week, and Bryson,
yes.
Nelson.
Yeah, we're going to take you down into the dirt with this one, taking you all the way to cross country. So this one's interesting. His name is Bryson Nilsson, the Eastmark High School senior from Mesa, Arizona, There was the 43rd annual Woodbridge Cross Country Invitational. And as someone who knows a lot about cross country, to put it in layman's terms, this is a huge championship caliber event that essentially they start racing, probably about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They don't end races till 11 p.m. at night. When it's cool, it is essentially a flat course where you're running on a soccer complex. And he ran 13 minutes and 59 seconds in the 3-mile. It was good enough for 12th overall in the men's sweepstakes race, but also 12th in the nation. He's currently leading the entire state of Arizona in the 3-mile. And get this, he's currently uncommitted going into his final season with the Fireworks. what are your guys' thoughts on this cross-country runner?
I definitely think, although I'm not as experienced in cross country as you are, I definitely think that he obviously sounds like a great player. Another little tidbit I found is this past summer, he participated in the Nike Outdoor Nationals and at the University of Oregon and placed 6th in his age group out of over 50 other runners. So that's a great kind of little tidbit to show you how great he is in the span of national terms. But a notable thing is decision day is November 13th, which does continue into August, which I think athletes can continue to decide to go to colleges. But it is interesting when there are these rare occurrences of what looks like on paper an amazing athlete that isn't yet committed to a college. Although we don't know the full story, maybe he hasn't found his place yet, or maybe he's in conversation with some schools. I definitely think that we'll see some big things from him in the future and hopefully a commitment sometime soon.
Yeah, just piggybacking off what Ella was saying, I'm obviously also not as experienced in cross country as Noah is, but it's just one thing that this segment has brought to my attention is the homegrown talent we have here in Arizona. 12th, what was it, 12th in the nation for, was it 3 mile you said?
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy to me that this is Mesa, Arizona, close, and we have this runner who is teetering on his college career, and he's already 12th in the nation. So, just to see how much more he can improve when he decides to go to college where he goes under that.
Yeah, and speaking of improvement, it seems like he's nearly 2 minutes of improvement from freshman to junior year, and so obviously he's been improving as he's gotten older, so we'll obviously see some better things from him in the coming years.
Well, then one thing you touched on there is, he's got that 2 minutes of improvement, and that was only from his junior year. So he's yet to hit one of those, what we consider to be a fast 5K course, which for those who don't, know our system, that's just roughly over 3.1 miles. So it's pretty brutal when you get out there. But again, he's got some just crazy stats. So for track this past season, he tripled, which means he did 3 events in the span of 48 hours. He ran in the AIA State Championships. He ran the 800 meters on May 10th, finished 3rd. Okay, that's really solid. But what sticks out to me is then he ran the 16:32 double on the next day, winning the 3,200 meters, 8 grueling laps around the track, and then got 3rd in the 1600. That goes to show me that not only does he have pace, speed-wise, because his PR in the, 800 is 152, solid, but he's also a 903 3,200 meter guy, so he's got the leg speed, he's got the distance grit. This is a guy who, depending on the kind of year he has with cross country, which again, already off to a great start, could put himself in the, the running for some of the, top programs in the entire country.
Exactly. Once he puts out those numbers, I feel like maybe we'll see more of some chatter from colleges, but hopefully sometime soon we see something from him. Turning to now ASU, back to ASU, we have men's basketball, and they've had some interesting recruits coming recently to make their Sun Devil debut. We have one from just fresh out of high school, Sainon, who was considered to be one of the best shooters and overall scorers in high school, and he was going to he was committed to the University of Arizona and switched to ASU. He stands at 6'5", and he's the 4th ranked player in Arizona and 20th best small forward in the nation. So there's another. Does anybody else want to talk about the other prospects we have coming up?
Oh, well, I mean, when I feel short, it's crazy because at 6'9", that's 6 inches taller than me, is a freshman as well, Jaden Quaintance. Jaden Quaintance is the number 2 ranked prospect out of his class and is the highest ranked recruit that Arizona State has ever acquired. That is impressive, not to get just one top recruit, but to get 2. This basketball program is building big things.
Exactly, with 2 big freshmen and Bobby Hurley, coach of the Suns, had a quote on Quaintance: "Jaden Quaintance is special, and I could keep it real simple. What he's going to be over the next couple years is scary because of his approach and his makeup and his physical tools and all the things he does on the court." I mean, your coach saying that before you start the program, I feel like, is a pretty big deal.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And like it says, they are two of the highest rated recruits in program history, set to make their debut this season. It's just so much to look forward to on not just men's basketball, but Sun Devil athletics. Like after having a 14-18 season last year and missing the playoffs, you have to put in the work to try and get there or improve again. And I think these two athletes are going to be a great addition to the team and add so much to our program.
Definitely. I saw the first article that was posted about these two put together was run from Cronkite Sports, and they were talking about how these two are going to help the basketball team rebuild after that disappointing last season. And they're kind of looking to turn around, rebuild, and start fresh. And there's no better way to start fresh than with star recruit freshmen to sort of build themselves up in the next few years and build up the program alongside their own talent.
Absolutely. And again, you touched on it right there. After the disappointing year, they also lost a couple of key players, Frankie Collins and Jemiah Neal, to the transfer portal. So this is, again, bright outlook for the Arizona State Sun Devils, but we're running out of time.
Yeah. Any last thoughts for anyone? All right. Thank you so much for listening to Monday's edition of Onward to Victory on Blaze Radio and Blaze Radio Online. My name is Jodan Talley, alongside
Ella Wolter-Sánchez
and Noah Reed.
Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.